Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone everywhere well. Peace and salutation to the Akim that's pushing his word in truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, waking up the hopeful elect and risking their lives and freedom to do so. Definitely more so now than ever before. This is the brother Zion Ahmad for the GMS Detroit Bot Camp. And this is going to be a lesson, all right, regarding who are the Greeks, all right, who are the Gentiles, which oftentimes that word is used, synonymously. All right, so just in short, before we go into it, if you don't know, all right, those Greeks, those Gentiles, all right, are Israelites. Or as we say, Israelite foreigners, meaning Israelites, all right, according to the flesh, all right, but they didn't know that they were Israelites. They were in a Gentile state of mind, all right, meaning they were living the life, all right, of a heathen, worshiping the gods of heathens, all right, following the customs of heathens, i.e. other nations. You see, not following the customs of their own heritage of being an Israelite. All right, so we're gonna really hinge upon the Greek, right? This word, this term Greek, right? What does that mean, right? Who is it speaking about, right? We're gonna get some precepts to highlight these points, and Lord willing, you be edified. So we're reading out of Romans 10 right now. This is Romans 10. I'll start at 11, and it reads, it says, "For the scripture saith, whosoever believeth on him should not be ashamed." All right, which we can read. Let's look at this right quick. Matter of fact, let's just nip that right on in the bud. A lot of Christians, they lose their mind with that word whosoever. You know what I'm saying? As if it pertains to anyone, right, in the planet Earth. But that's not the case. Right, real quick, this is Acts 2:21, and it reads, "And it shall come to pass that whosoever," right, same word, "whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved." But wait a minute. Oftentimes this is brought out in those Christian churches, but they never read the next verse. What does it say? It says, "Ye men of Israel, hear these words." So what does that mean? All right. I believe this was Peter speaking. So he's speaking to fellow Israelites. All right. That whosoever is pertaining to Israelites. The Heavenly Father, Yahweh, is the God of Israel. This is why he's always saying "my people," because his people are who? The Israelites. All right? What's that? Going back, Romans 10. Verse 12 now. It says, "For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek." All right? Let's see, for another thing with that term Greek, right? Christians use that as a gateway as to anyone can, come into this thing. Anyone can believe on Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? And that's not so. That's not so. First, you got to ask yourself, why is the term Greek being mentioned in Roman captivity? Why doesn't it say, for example, there's no difference between the Jew and the Roman? That would be more logical and more sensible, right? We're reading the book of Romans, right? But throughout the books of Paul, you always see the word Gentile, and for this lesson, the word Greek. But what is that Greek? Who is that referring to? Because automatically when you read the word Greek, you automatically think it was so-called white man. As to say, oh, white people can come into this thing. And again, that's not so. You see. and also, well, the Greco captivity was ruled by Edomites, so-called white people, right? Because they stole, all right, that term, right, from the Japhites, all right, Japhetic people, so-called Hawaiians, so you can understand. But the Japhet, the people of Japhet are actually the original Greeks, right? They were the ones that basically had the land of the Greek, I want to say, like, province, right, or land, before those Edomites came in and stole it by way of Alexander the Creep, or the Greek, or the Great, or whatever, but that guy. But and from that moment on, all right, our people were basically forced, right, to take on the Greek customs, right, by way of Antiochus Epiphanes the Fourth. You see, we were forced, all right, to live a life of a Greek. You know, it wasn't willingly, all right. It wasn't to our own volition. We were captives, all right. We were enslaved, as it were, for so much and for so long, to the point that when Yahushua came on the scene, you know, that's basically that's all our people knew. You know, they fell off, they fell away. You know, all they knew. So they literally was speaking Greek, dressing like Greeks, you know, keeping Greek customs, and eating like a Greek, you name it. Just as it is today, you know, our people are basically Americanized Israelites, right? Then they would have been, the term is Helen, right? When you look up the word Greek, it's actually Helen, all right, in the Greek, which basically goes into well, we're gonna read it. Sure, we're gonna get the definition and all that. So, without rambling, continuing, it says, "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." Now we know that whosoever, again, are Israelites, right? So let's do this. Let's look at the word Greek. The word Greek, all right, in the Greek, which is G16 Helen 72 Helen, right? It says a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or the Greek island or colonies, and in a wider sense, the name embraces nations, not Jews, which that's wrong. They went off there, all right, that made. But here's the point, all right. Embraces all nations, all right. Take out the not Jews part, right? Because this definition is pertaining to Israelites, and we're going to show you why shortly. Where it says, in a wider sense, that since the name embraces all nations, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own, right? And that's what the Israelite foreigners had done, all right? They were worshiping, you know, other gods. They were, performing in the Olympics, of the day. They were working out butt naked, in the gymnasiums and whatnot. They were, basically putting the foreskin back, on their circumcision and all that, just wilding out, basically. In short, right, it says the primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship kind, and that's what it was. Because, hey, there's only one true power, and that's Yahweh, right? And our people were not, worshiping the Heavenly Father. Again, they lost their way. So that word Helen, just remember that, G16:17. Alright, this is a precept. We're gonna get, what is that, John? This is John 7. And 35, just hitting the point. It says, what manner, Salaki, 35, yep. It says, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, the he being Yahushua, all right? It says, whither will he go that we should not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? See that? So there's actually two sets of Gentiles. Right? You got the Gentiles in the sense of heathen nations, and then you also have Gentiles in the sense of Israelite foreigners. Right? So who are we talking about? It said the dispersed, right, among the Gentiles, right, and teach the Gentiles. So it's going to be a particular people amongst basically other nations, which were the Israelites, due to the scattering, all right, which is our people were forewarned that we would be scattered according to prophecy. All right, when we read, let's get this real quick. This is, bear with me. This is Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy 28. The Lord forewarned us if we did not obey his law, statutes, and commandments, that this would be one of the curses that would befall us. All right, this is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And it reads, and Yahweh shall scatter thee. You see that? I.e. disperse. We're going to look up that word disperse too when we go back. It says, and the Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. What did he say? Would he go among the dispersed? Among. See that? Scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. All right? So put that in your back pocket. All right? This is John, going back, John 7 and 35. Again, says, there said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we should not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among, hear that word, among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? All right, we just read the Heavenly Father forewarned us that he was going to scatter us among, all right, all nations. So let's just see, what is this word? This word scatter mean in the Greek? That's not what I want. Alright. Drum roll. Where we at? So disperse. For the word disperse in the Greek is G1290. Alright, what the devil saying?
Strong's G1290. Diaspora. Diaspora.
Alright, diaspora, however you want to say. Tomato. Alright, it says what? A scattering, right? Dispersion. It says of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. Would you look at that? And that's the point. All right, those Israelites that were scattered, or rather, should I say, those Gentiles or those Greeks that were scattered are Israelites. Oh yeah, another point to pick up. Yeah, that word Gentile. See, that word Gentile in this verse is the same Greek word as the word Greek, right? In Romans the 10th chapter, where it said that the Jews and the Greeks are the same, right? That was the same word. Just rewind the video. The same Greek word, G1672, Helen, right? Same definition. So again, that's the point I was making with sometimes Gentile and Greek is used synonymously. You know, it's the same word in some instances. All right, this being one. All right. Now, let's get this. This is James 1:1. It reads, James, a servant of Yahweh, and of Adawan, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, meaning Lord. We don't say Jesus over here, all right? It's Yahweh Shai, all right? It says to the 12 tribes, which are what? Scattered abroad, greeting, all right? Reading that in the NLT, this letter is from James, a slave of God and of the Lord, Yahweh Shai Mashiach. I am writing to the 12 tribes, Jewish believers scattered abroad, greenies, which in reality that should say Israelite believers scattered abroad. All right. Again, let's look at that word scattered here. Let's see. And see what we're talking about here. Look at that. Remember that? G1290. Scattered, diaspora, right? Scattered and dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. There you go. Can't make it up. You know what I mean? It say what it say, man. It says what it says. So those Greeks in Romans the 10th chapter, or anywhere you read the word Greek, chiefly in the New Testament, right, that's referring to Israelites, no one else. Those are Israelites, all right? Israelite foreigners, scattered Israelites, all right? So, point has been made, you know, Lord willing, you were edified. So with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakudash, double honor to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that rule well, peace and salutation to the Akim that's pushing his word in the truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth.